And welcome, comic book fans, to the very first episode of the Modern Meltdown's new comic book review show, proudly sponsored by Impact Comics. You can check the guys out at www.impactcomics.com.au, and as a bonus, they also deliver Australia-wide. Now, this show is where we bring you the best that comic books have to offer each week. And right off the bat is Guardians of the Galaxy Issue 1. Now, the artwork in this issue is fantastic, and it's by Valerio Schiti. The book, which has excellent writing that's very entertaining, is written by Michael Bendis. And he gives it that classic Guardians of the Galaxy touch that I really love. Now, this issue introduces new team members, Kitty Pryde, The Thing, and Venom, with classic members Groot, Drax, and Rocket Raccoon appearing as regulars, while the former Star-Lord, Peter Quill, presides over his father's empire. Now, what's great is that Kitty Pryde and The Thing match up perfectly with the Guardians' sense of humour, so much so that you wonder why they always weren't part of the team. It's also interesting to see Peter Quill bogged down in the role of leader instead of laser gun toting rogue. He hates his station, and you can really feel for him in the book. Now, the artwork here is also well on the mark. Schiti's space is vibrant and the action is fast-paced. I also thought character expressions were realistic, accurate, and very amusing, especially when the characters converse. Now, I'm still not quite sold on Groot's design, but I believe it may grow on the reader over time. Now, for me, Guardians of the Galaxy should really be on your standing order. Now, next up, we have Spider-Gwen, written by Jason Latour, with art by Robbie Rodriguez. Now, this is a really cool introduction to Spider-Gwen, though unfortunately not as seamless as last week's Doctor Strange. Now, I was slightly lost as the book flashed back between the death of Peter Parker, as it transitions from the past to present, and it wasn't made very clear. Now, other than that, the writing is fine, and reminded me of classic Spider-Man stories. Now, this worked really well in the book's favour. The artwork is unique, drawn almost like high art graffiti. Rodriguez uses splashes of colour like no other artist. It feels as though someone took a paintbrush and rapidly moved it across the page like dancing light, and I love it. Rodriguez's art uses a lot of neon colours as well, and I think that gives the book its real appeal. The character designs are also very spot on. Now, if you haven't caught onto the Spider-Gwen train yet, this issue is perfect for a jumping on point. Now, unfortunately, the same cannot be said for Spider-Man 2099 Issue 1, written by Peter David and drawn by Will Sliney. If these books are supposed to be an introduction to old characters for new readers, then Spider-Man 2099 is severely lacking. There is really nothing at all new or different about this book. In fact, I think readers have been thrown into this story in the middle of a story arc. The art is passable at best, with nothing in the style or presentation to make it unique. However, if you have been following the Spider-Man 2099 books since their revival, then I think you will be pleasantly surprised that they continued on with the current plot, rather than revamping like the other books. So, if you were consistently reading Spider-Man 2099, you may feel a bit more comfortable purchasing this book. Now onto our first Avengers offering, The New Avengers Issue 1, written by Al Wing, drawn by Gerardo Sandoval. Now, to be 100% honest here, I was pretty set against the Avengers books after the Issue 0 teaser. But The New Avengers has totally changed my mind. First, the artwork has a real nice spin to it, a rough quality that really appeals to me. It is fully formed art, don't get me wrong. It just feels like a gritty sketch, and that won me over from page 1. Now, I'm very unfamiliar with most of the characters in the book except for Moonstone, but the reader is given a very quick brief on their powers and benefactor AIM. You're informed that Squirrel Girl is squirrely, with all of her squirrel powers. If you like characters that are similar to Deadpool, you're gonna like Squirrel Girl. If not, then this character will pretty much be a painful read. Now, over time, I'm sure the rest of the team will get proper introductions, but there just aren't enough pages in a comic to cover the entire team in one go. Now, another plot thread that will keep you entertained is why AIM, a traditionally evil organization, is wrapped up in the Avengers game, and so is S.H.I.E.L.D., who have inserted Clint Barton, Hawkeye, into the team. This led to one of my favourite moments in the comic when the head of AIM asked if they could have the other Hawkeye. The expression drawn on Hawkeye's face is worth buying this book. Now onto the Uncanny Avengers, Issue 1, written by Jerry Duggan, art by Ryan Stegman. This book does not get off to a great start. Now, Spidey quits the team in the first few pages, and if you're familiar with the Avengers, you know this is typical Avengers nonsense. The artwork looks lanky at times, limbs seem out of proportion. This really bugged me. But as the book progressed, and it is sizable for a comic, I found myself more invested in the story. With an elderly Captain America leading his Unity team, which is made of humans, Inhumans, and mutants working side by side, to show the world that if we work together, we can achieve real results. The metaphor could be a little bit on the nose for some, but for me, it was a decent message wrapped up in a comic. And the world could use a few more stories like this. There's also a few mysteries here and there, and as they unravel, I think it will prove the series worth your time. Now onto my number one gold pick of the week, Captain America Issue 1, written by Nick Spencer with art by Daniel Acuna. This book proves that comics are more than just pretty pictures. Sam Wilson wades headfirst into a stance on social justice that I think not all Americans are going to be happy with. Now, when he turns his back on a government and S.H.I.E.L.D., who he believes are operating with the same methods as the bad guys. Now, the artwork is really grounded for a comic, giving the story a more realistic feel, which I think is appropriate for the story that the team is trying to tell. In fact, Captain America 1 reminds me of the old hard-traveling hero storyline from the classic Green Lantern Green Arrow books. It's one superhero fighting grassroots problems, not some menacing supervillain. And for me, that makes this book a lot more engaging. Now, in the current climate of racism and phobia that we see rear its ugly head every day, it is great to see a comic with a character like Captain America taking a very firm stance against it and showing future generations to stand up for their convictions. I also like the approach that Nick Spencer takes when demonstrating Captain America's stance on the government and S.H.I.E.L.D. You can see his discomfort at working for a system with zero accountability. And it's one that we all should be thinking about in the current political climate. Now, I think this book will be one to keep an eye on as Cap challenges our preconceptions of the current world climate. Now time for you DC comic book fans. Superman, Lois and Clark, Issue 1, written by Dan Jurgen and drawn by Lee Weeks. Now, as a child of the 90s, this book was pretty refreshing for me. It's a homage to classic Superman, red trunks and all. Now, after the events of Convergence, misplaced heroes from different dimensions are offered homes. We discover that the Superman of the pre-New 52 universe has taken up residence in the New 52 universe, with his wife Lois Lane and son Jonathan. Now, not content to simply watch events unfold, Superman from a different Earth dons a new name and costume in order to preempt the emergence of the villains who endangered his former Earth. Now, I really dig on this book because it is for the older fans who remember Superman as a positive force for good, less brooding, more affable. The family man approach this book takes will also prove to be interesting in the long term, as we learn what it will take for Superman to guide his possible superhuman son in our world, while trying to keep his secret from him. I thought the writing here was very engaging, with Jurgens able to resurrect classic Superman without overloading the book with exposition. Lee Weeks' art is also distinct, and like Jurgens' writing, I felt like his style also tapped really well into that pre-52 era. There's also a lack of splash pages in the book, and I think it works well for this particular issue. Now on to the counterpoint to Superman, it's Batman issue 45, written by Scott Snyder and drawn by Greg Capullo. I don't think I've ever been disappointed in a Snyder-written Batman story, but a small complaint for this issue is the split focus between the new Batman, Jim Gordon, and a recovering Bruce Wayne. I'm more interested in following Gordon's journey, and following up with Bruce every week is proving to just be a distraction from that journey. My feeling is that the inclusion of Bruce Wayne is to set up his return to Batman, but this is just speculation on my part. Otherwise, the writing is spot on, as Snyder manages to seamlessly merge together Gordon's cop instincts and actions with the mantle of Batman. And I really dig on it. The villainous Bloom also gets a ramp up in this story, and I feel that this is leading to the big confrontation of the arc. Capullo's artwork is spot on as usual, and it makes me sad knowing that he will be taking a break from Batman in the near future. Now, one of Capullo's strong points is the emotion he can draw into a character's eyes, but in each issue sometimes this comes across as odd. Why would a tech guy stare lovingly at a screen? But it's a small complaint for one of the best artists working in comics at the moment. Now, the new Batsuit and Mecha Suit designs have also really grown on me, and I think they'll grow on you as well. Now, last but certainly not least is Constantine the Hellblazer, issue 5, written by Ming Doyle and James Tyron IV, and drawn by the Constantine art team. Now, what do you expect from a Constantine story? Constantine being a jerk who gets someone turned into a demon who used to love him and getting wrapped up in a love triangle? Well, if that's your expectation, then you won't be disappointed with this book. This issue is a great jumping on point for new readers, as it's a singular look into the life of Constantine and what gravitating towards him leads to. It's more a cautionary tale on what befall those who surround themselves with the master of the dark arts. So for new readers, it's a good character study on Constantine. I'm not too fussed on Constantine's character design, but it might grow on me over time. Otherwise, the book looks good. The use of muted colours help to convey the dreary world that Constantine inhabits, and the use of bright colours for the demons helps the monster to stand out when you juxtapose it against the dull backgrounds. It's a nice stylistic choice for this book, and you should definitely check it out if you would like to know more about the character. Well, that's all we have for this week. Don't forget to check back next week, same channel, same place, for another episode of the Comic Book Review Show. And if you'd like more comic book news, tune in to the Modern Meltdown podcast every week. Thanks, and we'll see you next time.